Okay, so when do I believe an author? How do I know that an author is credible? I know that peer review isn't credible because I know me and I know I don't do any of the things that review says I do. I've talked to other people about it, like Dr. Myers and my coworker Charlie, and they also don't see that I do any of the things that review mentions. However, Dr. Myers has told me that the negative peer review has some of the doctors wondering if I act that way when they aren't in a position to see what I'm doing. The doctors I work for are busy most of the time. They don't directly observe my behavior as often as people who work shoulder to shoulder with me every day. So I know this review isn't credible, but it's planted a seed of doubt in the minds of some of the doctors about me. They don't know the review isn't credible, or at least they're not sure. One of the problems here is that not knowing the author is a big handicap to determining credibility. For example, if I know the person writing a piece about diagnosing autism is a respected physician known for studying and treating conditions like autism, then I'm going to be more likely to believe the information presented. However, if the article was written by my next-door neighbor who has never studied autism, then I would probably not believe all the information in the article. So, an author's credentials are really important. These are the qualifications an author has to talk about a given subject. If an author has extensive knowledge of and experience with a given subject, then I trust the author on that subject. If this author is regarded by others in the same area of knowledge as a top expert on that subject, then that makes me trust that author even more. But if an author's credentials are weak in a given subject, then I'm not going to be as quick to trust what he or she has written. Even though I don't know the specific person who wrote this review, I do know some things about this person. He or she works in this office. He or she is a peer. He or she has it in for me. Because this person works in this office as a peer, he or she should know what I do and don't do. But this author has chosen to lie instead. Why? This person might want something. What? Well, to persuade the doctors in this office that I'm no good. But maybe also to get me fired? Or maybe this person wants something else, a promotion or the special favor of someone like Dr. Myers, and sees me as being in the way. When I read something and I'm trying to figure out if I should believe it, I need to look at what the author might want but isn't being upfront about. Part of knowing what an author wants involves knowing who an author is writing to. This nasty review was a peer review. It was about me, but it wasn't being written to me. It was being written to the doctors who run this office. They are the audience for this review. Now, this person might have known I'd eventually see the review. So this person might have been thinking of me as being the real audience all along and just wanted to hurt my feelings. But knowing that the doctors would read the review first, the author of this review might have wanted to turn their feelings against me. Speaking of evidence and facts, an important part of deciding whether to trust an author is seeing if they use evidence and facts to back up what they say. Also, do they use evidence and facts fairly, or do they leave out important pieces of info they'd rather you not know about? If an author doesn't bother with evidence, relies on phony evidence, or picks and chooses which facts he uses, these are all clear signs that he can't be trusted. These are also signs of bias. If I can tell an author has a strong bias for or against something, I still might be able to trust that author. But I have to keep that bias in mind when I consider what the author is saying, and I have to think really carefully about what the author says. Someone might be really strongly biased in favor of stem cell research. That person might still be trustworthy on that topic, even with the bias. But knowing that author has a strong bias, I need to consider the author's statements and evidence even more carefully. If that author admits to being biased, though, that helps. It shows that the author is aware of the bias and wants the reader to be too. It shows an intent to be honest. Of course, it could also be a ploy to lure me into trusting the author. I always need to be careful. This isn't relevant in the case of this peer review, but it's often important to know who an author is writing for. In the case of this peer review, this person is writing for no one but him or herself. But if someone is saying that pollution and things like that don't affect climate change, and I find out that person is being paid a lot of money by an oil company to write that, then I know I should be skeptical. This includes the publication an author is writing for. If I'm reading an article on climate change in a respected scientific journal, I can probably trust it more than a random blog post about climate change on some website. Why? Because I know the journal is about science, and climate change is a scientific topic, and because if the journal is respected, that means it has a reputation to uphold. If the article has lots of citations of sources that are clearly listed with the article to back up what the author is saying, then that makes the article even more trustworthy. I still can't trust it automatically without thinking about things like bias and audience and what the author might want, but these are signs of credibility I need to consider. So let's recap. If I'm trying to figure out if an author is credible, what do I need to look for? Let's say I'm researching a new pair of headphones for my iPod. I know a brand I want to try, but I'm reading up about it online to be sure. Does the author's education and experience give me the impression that he or she knows about the subject? In the case of headphones, there's no doctorate in earbuds. But if I know the author of a review is a professional reviewer who has evaluated a lot of headphones, that might make the person's review more worthy of trust than someone at Amazon who admits to not knowing a lot about headphones. Who is the author writing for? Where am I reading the author's writing? Does it lend more or less credibility to what the author is saying? A professional reviewer writing a positive review about headphones that are advertised on the website the reviewer writes for might not want to endanger that business relationship by writing anything negative. Then again, I don't really know anything about customers writing reviews on Amazon. If a publication is legit, then that's a sign that writers working for that publication are legit too. Who is the author writing to? I just want to buy a decent pair of earbuds that are better than what I have now. I don't want to spend a lot of money. If a pro reviewer is mainly writing to audiophile types who don't mind spending a lot of money to get the best headphones available, then I might not want to trust that reviewer's words because they aren't really being written to me in the first place. I might trust Amazon reviewers who have the same needs and desires as me. What an author wants from his audience is really important to know. If an author of an Amazon review is clearly just trying to show off how much he knows about headphones, then I might not listen to him even if he does know a lot about headphones. He might just be an audio snob showing off for other audio snobs. He doesn't care what someone like me needs or wants. Is the author biased? A review is almost certainly going to have some sort of bias. But how much fact and evidence are there to support the author's bias? If all an Amazon reviewer has to say about a pair of headphones is that they are horrible and only an idiot would think anything else, then there's not a bit of evidence there. Why should I listen to this review if there are no facts to support what the author is saying? If someone else says that a pair of headphones is horrible because they sound tinny, they're uncomfortable, and they break really easily, then that gives me something to think about. The bias is clear, but there is also evidence to support the bias. Angela found out who wrote that negative review about me. It was a new person in the office, Pamela. She had been unsure about what to write about her peers because she was so new. But she had overheard some other people in the office talking smack about someone named Jennifer. She thought that person was me, and even if half of what she was hearing was true, she didn't want to work with anyone like that. So she put everything she heard into her review. Angela knew, however, that the Jennifer that Pamela heard about was a different Jennifer in a different office. Angela doesn't like me that much, but she likes unfairness even less. Angela told Pamela that she needed to base her reviews on what she knew, not what she had heard. She said that if Pamela didn't come forward and confess, that she'd tell the doctors what had happened herself. So Pamela did come forward. She isn't going to be fired, but the doctors are really unhappy with her. They are also going to do a training session with everyone in the office to make sure people know how to do peer reviews properly. Great job! You've now finished this section. Continue building your skills by moving on to the next section.